It's embarrassing just to have a relative who didn't even finish high school. The one who laughed as he said that was Dr. Taylor, the director of the hospital and the future father-in-law of my younger brother. From the moment we met, this man had looked down on my academic background. Even at the wedding reception, a day meant to be a celebration, he found a way to humiliate me. It's a shame your daughter is marrying someone whose brother is such an idiot. The guests around us laughed along with him, making the whole venue feel disturbingly twisted. I couldn't hold it in. My fists clenched tightly. Right after that, my wife quietly said, "Darling, maybe we really should ruin his hospital." Yeah, maybe we should. What? My name is Charles Smith, 40 years old. I work at a company founded by a friend of my father's. It's a manufacturing company, and just saying that often makes people look down on you. When people think of success, they picture company presidents, doctors, lawyers, or pilots. And my younger brother, Henry, is one of those successful people. He's a doctor. Honestly, I'm proud of him. I truly think he's someone to boast about. That same brother, Henry, is getting married this winter. I've been really looking forward to attending his wedding. I used to be part of a family of 4. It was me, my brother Henry, and our parents. We were a cheerful, ideal family, always full of laughter. But now, the only one I can still call family is my brother. It happened over 20 years ago. During the summer of my second year in high school, we went on a family trip. We took a bus tour to visit some tourist spots within the country, but on the way there, we got into an accident. We had taken seats toward the back of the bus. My father sat next to me, and my mother was beside Henry. Henry and I were happily chatting while snacking on sweets. Other tour members were also talking and laughing, and the bus was filled with a cheerful atmosphere. But midway through the tour, there was a loud thud, and the bus suddenly lurched from side to side, tilting as if it were driving on one wheel. Screams of "ah" echoed throughout the bus. I heard the tour guide shouting, "Please stay calm," and "hold on to your seats." Then the bus flipped over and skidded on its side for some distance before coming to a stop. Shattered glass and scattered belongings littered the inside of the bus, and there was a strong metallic smell in the air. I couldn't move. Maybe I was pinned by the seat. Or perhaps I had broken a bone. It was possible that another passenger had fallen on top of me. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind, but the pain all over my body drowned them out. I wanted to check on my parents and my brother, but I didn't have the strength. "Is everyone all right? If you can move, please exit the bus slowly." Hearing the tour guide's voice, I forced myself back to consciousness. Her desperate call seemed to stir the others as well, and groans of pain began rising from around the bus. Voices cried out one after another, "It hurts. Help me." I took a deep breath and finally managed to assess my own situation. I forced myself to lift my head slightly through the pain and saw that the one lying on top of me was my father. He had thrown himself over me to protect me, still holding me tightly in his arms. I tried calling out, but there was no response. With the arm I could move, I shook his body. Still nothing. Desperately, I tried to shake him harder, calling out over and over again, "Dad? Hey, Dad, answer me, please." Unable to get up, lying there helplessly, I continued to call for him. Eventually, someone who had noticed the accident called the police and an ambulance, and we were rescued, but apparently, the accident was far more serious than anyone had expected. At that moment, maybe because I felt relieved seeing the rescue workers, I lost consciousness. So, I have no memory of anything that happened after that. The next time I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. My mind suddenly surfaced, and with a groan, I slowly forced my heavy eyelids open. "Big bro? Big bro is awake. Henry! Charles!" Hearing Henry shouting in excitement, a nurse quickly rushed over to my bedside. "Oh, thank goodness. Can you tell me your name?" "Charles Smith." "How old are you?" "Can you tell me your birthday?" "I'm 17. My birthday is. I'd heard that hospitals these days always ask for your name and date of birth to confirm your identity. Do you know what happened? We were on a family trip. The bus. It flipped over. I answered slowly as I traced my memory back, trying to figure out why I was here. Then suddenly, I jolted and looked at Henry's face. He had bandages wrapped around his head and a few scrapes, but thankfully, it didn't look like he had any serious injuries. What about our mom and dad? There will be a conversation about that later with Dr. Bailey. For now, please just rest. With that, the nurse left the room. I wanted to know what was going on, but Henry just kept crying. All I could do was say, "It's going to be all right," and try to comfort him. The next time I woke up, Dr. Bailey came in and told me the truth. Both of our parents had died in that accident. Apparently, our father shielded me, and our mother shielded Henry. After Dr. Bailey's explanation, a police officer and a representative from the travel agency that organized the tour came in. The travel agency representative bowed deeply to us, the now parentless brothers. He went on about the compensation for death and injury during the day trip, but I couldn't process any of it. Even though I was in high school, I was still a kid. I didn't know anything about insurance. Seeing the blank look on my face, a nurse stepped in and spoke up. They've just lost their family and are in shock. This conversation should be had another day. Thanks to the nurse's words, the representative left. But what came next hit me even harder: the results of a detailed medical examination explained by Dr. Bailey. Because of a complex fracture from the accident, I was left with severe damage to my leg. Henry and I had played soccer since we were little, but because of the accident, I had to give that up. What was supposed to be a fun trip had taken away so much from us in an instant. I lost all motivation to do anything. Still, the reason I could think, I want to live, I want to keep going, was because of Henry. Henry was the only family I had left. No matter what happened, I had to protect him. That became my reason to live, and the next time the travel agency came, I was able to calmly listen to the details of the compensation. We received compensation for the death of our parents and for the injuries Henry and I had sustained. In addition, I was also granted full coverage for the long-term treatment I would need due to the lasting disability from my injuries. Even after being discharged, I couldn't move like I had before the accident. I needed Henry's help just to get to the bathroom. Eventually, I realized I didn't want to live completely dependent on him. So, I worked hard on my rehabilitation, and if there was a wall within reach, I managed to move around by myself again. Still, losing our parents had left us in a dire financial situation. We had the compensation money from the travel company, but it was limited, so I decided to save it for emergencies. I had to keep it in case Henry ever needed it, so he wouldn't have to give up on soccer or his education. Life at school wasn't easy either, but thanks to our homeroom teacher explaining my situation to the class, my classmates started helping me out. But the support only lasted through my junior year of high school, and by the time I became a senior, everyone was completely focused on college entrance exams, leaving no one who could help me anymore. Even my homeroom teacher couldn't continue to give me special attention, and as a result, I decided to drop out of high school and start working. Fortunately, I was offered a job at a company run by one of my father's friends. Knowing both my father and the extent of my disability, he still chose to hire me. I was deeply grateful for that. Charles, I've decided not to go to high school either. What? What are you talking about? Because you're the only one getting the short end of the stick. I'll be fine. With this leg, I can't go around burdening my friends. You shouldn't give up on college or soccer. Henry was kind. For the sake of our household and for my sake, he was ready to give up on both college and soccer. Why? Why do you always try to carry everything on your own? Henry, you've always been the one sacrificing while I get to do everything I want. Henry, you don't want to quit what you're doing now, do you? It's what you truly want, right? Charles! Henry sniffled. You're twisting my words. Ha, I'm not twisting anything. Listen, twisting someone's words means pointing out what they said wrong to criticize or mock them. What I did was point out the truth you just admitted. At my words, Henry puffed out his cheeks and pouted. That reaction hadn't changed since we were kids. Henry, if you want to go to college, then you should. Don't worry about the money. Charles, I really do want to keep playing soccer, and I want to go to college too. All right. I want to become a doctor, someone who can heal your leg. What? That's why I want to go to a university with a medical school. No, I will go to med school and become a doctor. Just as he declared, Henry, who had always been a top student, was accepted into a university with a medical program. I supported him so that he could focus on his studies, always watching over him. Since he was busy with school, I didn't let him take on a part-time job. I wanted him to prioritize what he truly wanted. Maybe understanding how much that meant to me, Henry poured his energy into his studies while also taking part in volunteer work, things money couldn't buy. Eventually, Henry graduated from university. After his internship, he became a surgeon. During his intern years, he trained under a certain supervising doctor who drilled the fundamentals into him. But it never seemed like a burden. When he came home, he would go on passionately about how incredible his mentor was. Dr. Simmons is truly amazing. He's a brilliant doctor. I see. You really look up to him, don't you? Yeah, Dr. Simmons is a sincere man who cares deeply for his patients and younger doctors. It was clear how much Henry respected Dr. Simmons. He would often say how grateful he was to be able to learn under him and how fulfilling his work felt. Thanks to Dr. Simmons, Henry became a fine surgeon. Even now, I'm sure he's surrounded by many patients. And more good news continued to come. During his time at the university hospital, Henry met Catherine, the daughter of Director Taylor, and they supported each other through the tough years of their internship. After making it through their years as interns, the two of them finally tied the knot. They had decided to get married. I had the chance to meet her too. She was graceful and charming. Well, considering she's on the path to becoming a doctor, she did seem a bit strong-willed, but as Henry tends to be more emotionally dependent, she was the perfect match for him. Congratulations, Henry. Charles, you're really happy for me? Of course. I'm thrilled to have such a lovely woman become my sister-in-law. Welcome. Catherine. Yes. He's still inexperienced, but please take good care of my little brother for many years to come. I said that as I bowed deeply to Catherine. Time passed, and the day came for the formal meeting between our families. I headed to the designated restaurant. Henry and I arrived first, but Catherine's parents showed up just moments before the scheduled time, and the way they glared at me with furrowed brows was hard to ignore. Their judgmental stares made me feel uncomfortable. Still, if I made any wrong move, it could ruin Henry's marriage. I kept my composure. I'm Michael, Catherine's father. I'm Amanda, her mother. Even though their greetings were polite, I straightened my posture and returned the courtesy. Thank you very much. I'm Henry's brother, Charles Smith. I've heard about you from Catherine. After your parents passed away, I understand you supported Henry. That's very admirable. Amanda smiled warmly as she spoke with me, but Michael said nothing. He just kept silently sizing me up. So, yes, can I help you? What's your highest level of education? Which university did you attend? As soon as he asked, I thought, here it comes. He's the director of the hospital where Henry works. It's only natural that he would be concerned about the educational background of his future in-laws. I dropped out of high school. What? Then you're just a middle school graduate. Michael raised his voice at my answer. I had expected some reaction, but his outrage was worse than I imagined. Yes. Our parents died suddenly, and it put us in a really difficult financial situation. My brother was also left with a leg disability from the accident. He quit school and started working so I could continue my education. But still, a middle school graduate? That's the lowest of the low. These days, anyone can get into high school no matter how dumb they are. There are plenty of low-level schools out there, but to not even graduate, unbelievable. Even after Henry explained the circumstances, Michael couldn't seem to get past the word middle school graduate. Catherine did her best to calm him down, but his insults toward me just kept coming. When he found out I worked on the factory floor, his insults grew even worse. Being a middle school graduate is bad enough, but working on a factory floor? That's a job for people who have nothing but brute strength, he said, and eventually added, to think someone like that is becoming part of my family. It's humiliating. Still, he never once said they would cancel the engagement. That was probably because Henry was a doctor, not just any doctor, but one working at his own hospital. Catherine truly loved Henry, and even Michael likely couldn't justify calling off the marriage despite his disdain. During the entire meeting, I endured Michael's relentless insults about my education and my job. He even went so far as to attack my character. If this hadn't been a private room at the restaurant, it would have caused a major scene. The staff probably realized what was happening, but since it was a private room, no one came in. I can't believe this. To think someone as low as a middle school dropout is part of my family. I felt furious, but for the sake of Henry and Catherine's happiness, I swallowed my anger and waited for the meeting to end. That night, after returning home, I hesitated over whether or not to talk to my beloved wife, Brenda, about what had happened. I was afraid I might burden her with something she wouldn't know how to respond to. But maybe sensing something from my expression, Brenda was the one who spoke first. Something happened, didn't it? As always, she saw right through me. Touched by her kindness, I smiled and told her everything that had happened. I went to that meeting ready to endure whatever they said for Henry's sake. But to be insulted to the point of having my entire character denied, it was more than I could take. That's awful. I can't believe there are still people out there who care so much about education levels. Well, I guess it makes sense, considering he's a doctor. Maybe he puts a lot of weight on that sort of thing. I fell in love with your kindness, Charles. As adults, being able to treat others with compassion is more important than any academic degree. Thank you, Brenda. Don't let it get to you. Anyone who refuses to see your true worth isn't worth your time. Brenda said gently, comforting me, and thanks to her kindness, I finally felt some warmth return to my heart. Today was the long-awaited wedding day of Henry and Catherine. I attended the ceremony in formal attire. Brenda and I joined as part of Henry's family, but even there, I was subjected to further humiliation. Look at this. This is unbelievable. Our eyes were drawn to the message written on the place card at my seat. At wedding receptions, it's common for the couple to include handwritten messages of appreciation on the guests' name cards. But on mine, scribbled messily in ugly handwriting, were the words, "Useless brother of the bridegroom, a middle school dropout with no education." There was no way Henry would allow something like this. It was obvious that Michael had replaced the original card on his own. The message from Henry and Catherine had surely been thrown away. That's awful. Yeah. As I stood frozen, I noticed Catherine's parents and several of the bride's guests laughing at the situation. Is being a doctor really that important? Sure, it's a prestigious and demanding profession, but that doesn't give anyone the right to look down on others. Doctors are meant to be respected by others. That's why they're called doctor and admired by patients. And yet, these people who were now laughing at me, had they forgotten that? Charles. Brenda tugged gently at my sleeve. Today was supposed to be a celebration for Henry and Catherine. A once-in-a-lifetime memory. The lights in the reception hall dimmed, and background music began to play. The bride and groom are now entering. Everyone, please welcome them with a round of applause. The MC delivered the familiar announcement. Henry entered the room with pride, and Catherine, standing beside him, looked absolutely beautiful. The sight of the two of them, glowing with happiness, moved me to tears. Our parents in heaven must be so proud to see you like this. And even though they had only just walked in, I burst into tears, soaking the towel Brenda offered me. Brenda smiled gently and rubbed my back. You're like a child right now. I'm just so happy Henry's getting married. You really have become like a father to him. We've been through everything together. He's my little brother, and I love him." Henry and Catherine, sitting at the main table, were the brightest stars in the room, and all I could do was hope that they would find true happiness. The MC began the formal introductions and presented the bride and groom. As part of Henry's introduction, I was also introduced as his only remaining family. A spotlight shone on me, and with Brenda's help, I stood up and bowed toward Catherine's relatives. There was only a half-hearted round of applause, and the MC looked momentarily flustered, but managed to keep the mood smooth. My relatives comforted me, saying things like, "Don't let it bother you," and "What's with that attitude? Is Hank going to be all right?" And their kindness truly warmed my heart. Michael had been chosen to give the toast. "My name is Michael, father of the bride. Though I may not be the most qualified, I've been asked to lead the toast, and I humbly accept the honor." Those were the standard words, and he wore the face of a dignified father. "Henry, Catherine, congratulations. And to the members of the Smith and Taylor families, congratulations as well. Although it seems the Smith family has one particularly hopeless failure among them, I wholeheartedly welcome Henry into our family. Despite having a middle school dropout for a brother, Henry is a brilliant young man who became a surgeon through his own merit." He said this with a cheerful smile, standing in front of the entire reception, in front of all the guests. Some of Catherine's guests chuckled quietly. It was an outrageous insult, but even then, I kept my smile and held back my anger. Today is Henry's big day. If I let my emotions get the better of me, I'll ruin the atmosphere. I need to stay calm. Tapping my chest lightly with my fingertips, I whispered to myself, "Cue Sierra, Sierra," trying to settle my nerves. "Everyone, please rise." At Michael's cue, all the guests stood up and raised their glasses. "Now, if you would all join me in a toast, here's to the future of the couple and the continued prosperity of both families. Cheers." And with that, the reception and meal began. Appetizers were served, and soon it was time for me as the one standing in for our late parents to give my speech. I had poured my heart into preparing for this moment. Nervous, I hadn't eaten a bite since the opening toast, but Brenda stayed by my side, quietly supporting me. Yet, no matter how long I waited, there was no sign of being called on. Finding it far too strange, I approached a nearby staff member and spoke to them. "Excuse me, has the speech from the groom's family been scheduled yet?" The staff member responded, "I'll check," and went over to speak with the MC. After exchanging a few words, they returned. "I'm very sorry. There was a request from the bride's family to have that part removed. Perhaps there was some miscommunication?" Hearing that, I couldn't hold it in any longer and walked straight over to Michael to confront him. Brenda, concerned, came with me, but Michael, perhaps emboldened by the alcohol, looked at me and burst into loud laughter. "Come on, even if you're his brother, it's ridiculous to have a middle school dropout giving a speech at their wedding. Use your head a little." "Oh, wait. I guess someone from the bottom of the barrel like you wouldn't understand common sense." His voice was loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. But most of those tables were filled with other doctors, people eager to stay on Michael's good side, so they just laughed along with him. "Look, I did you a favor. I removed your speech so a lowly middle school dropout wouldn't ruin the reception. You should be thanking me, but no. You come complaining? This is why I hate talking to people without an education. It's a waste of time." That was it. I couldn't take any more. Without another word, I walked out of the reception hall. "Charles, Brenda, this is too much. I know, I understand. I wanted to celebrate Henry with a smile, but I can't do it anymore." I had left the venue, not because I cared more about my pride than Henry's happiness, but because I simply couldn't endure the humiliation any longer. I felt like I had failed as a brother. "Charles, that hospital. Let's bring it down." Brenda placed her hand on my back and whispered quietly, "What? I can take that hospital down. I've already gathered evidence of Director Taylor's corruption and misconduct. Her words made my eyes widen in shock. When I first heard how that man insulted you, I made up my mind. I was going to make him pay. Anyone who judges others by their education like that can't be running a clean operation. She was right. So I started digging, looked into his family, the hospital's finances, everything. And it was like turning over a rotten log. There was filth everywhere. Brenda. Even while I was still investigating, new reports of fraud and misconduct kept popping up. We have more than enough evidence now. Brenda works as an executive assistant to the CEO at my father's friend's company. She's well-connected, sensitive to industry rumors, and very thorough. Apparently, Director Michael had long been surrounded by dark rumors, and she had taken this opportunity to confirm them. He's involved in all kinds of shady stuff, misusing funds for personal expenses, covering up medical errors, verbally abusing young doctors. One insider told me he's already lost the trust of many at the hospital. When did you do all this? Hey, I was just so furious someone would insult the person I love, so I put everything into it. She gave a soft little laugh, and I felt overwhelmed by love for her. But if Director Taylor goes down, what happens to the hospital? I don't want Henry losing his job right after getting married. Don't worry about that either. I looked into it. There's a Dr. Simmons who's highly respected and well-liked by everyone. We're going to push to have him appointed as the new director. Dr. Simmons? That's the Dr. Henry looks up to. Perfect then. Let's hand this file over to Dr. Simmons. When we returned to the hall, Michael made his way over to us, of course, with that smug look still on his face. What's this? I thought you'd gone home. You actually came back. Do you enjoy being humiliated that much, you ignorant fool? This is exactly why middle school dropouts are useless. Watching Michael loudly insult me in the middle of a wedding celebration made me wonder who really lacked common sense here. Still, I didn't argue back. I didn't want to embarrass Henry on his special day. I can't stand this. Just being in the same room as you makes me sick. Get out of here already, you poor, uneducated nobody. Staff nearby seemed to be trying to intervene, but it was clear that Michael, with all his influence, was making it difficult for anyone to act. Excuse me, but aren't you perhaps mistaken about something? Huh? Who the hell are you? I'm Charles' wife. And do you really have no idea who my husband is? What? So what if he's some useless middle school dropout? Like husband, like wife. Pathetic. When Michael started insulting Brenda, too, I finally reached my limit. But just as I clenched my fists in anger, Brenda gently grabbed my hand. Charles, let me handle this. But Brenda, it's fine. My husband is the CEO of Smith Medical Technologies, the company that supplies all the medical equipment used in your hospital. What? And that's not all. Do you know what this is? Brenda didn't back down. She reached into her bag and pulled out a USB drive. Michael stared at it, clearly not understanding what it was. This USB contains evidence of all the misconduct you've committed up to now. If you'd like, I can borrow the computer over there and present it right here on the spot. Fortunately, it looks like that computer is connected to the screen over there. What are you talking about? That's slander. And you have the nerve to say that? Brenda's voice rose slightly. You've been insulting my husband nonstop. And let's be clear, the one who's been committing crimes here is you. You brought this on yourself. No, anyway, there's no way some middle school dropout could become CEO of a company like Smith. Don't lie to me. My husband started on the factory floor and worked hard for 20 years. Because of his dedication, former President Turner entrusted him with the company. Lies! As Michael started to lose control, the staff finally stepped in. He was forcibly removed from the venue. Though the commotion didn't settle right away, the professional MC managed to keep the event moving, and the reception continued into its second half. Thanks to the quick thinking of the venue staff who understood what had happened, they added my speech back into the program. I was able to deliver the speech I had worked so hard to memorize. Still, halfway through it, I broke down crying, and once again, Brenda helped me through it. At the same time, I noticed Henry was also in tears. It reminded me that we truly were brothers at heart. After the wedding, Brenda and I handed the evidence she had gathered to Dr. Simmons. Please use this evidence to bring down Director Taylor, and we hope you will become the next director. Dr. Simmons looked surprised, but clearly he had his own frustrations with how Michael had been running the hospital. Other doctors nearby also expressed their support, encouraging Dr. Simmons to take on the role. He took the evidence and consulted a lawyer. In a board meeting, the misconduct of Director Taylor and his family was exposed and challenged legally. As a result, Michael had his medical license revoked and was permanently barred from practicing medicine. Having his medical license revoked felt like a harsh punishment at first, but considering he was a hospital director who repeatedly hurled verbal abuse at young doctors and covered up numerous medical errors, it was only inevitable. Apparently, the medical board unanimously agreed to strip him of his license. Well, I guess that's the gist of it. Henry came by, saying it was just a casual catch-up, and the two of us sat down for tea and talked. It seems a bit too harsh, doesn't it? What? No way. I just don't want him taking it out on you later, Henry. It doesn't matter. He insulted you horribly, deleted your speech from the program, and don't even get me started on that place card. Oh, that. His words made me remember the seat card from the reception. Catherine, and I wrote a message of gratitude for you. That card ended up crumpled and tossed into the venue's trash. It was disgusting. I love Catherine, but I'll never be able to like her father. Henry, clearly still irritated, bit down hard on a rice cracker, crunching it loudly. So, what's happening at the hospital now? Oh, of course, Dr. Simmons has officially taken over as the new director. Even though he's the head now, he says he'll still be on the floor working directly with patients. I'm thrilled. There's still so much I want to learn from him. I see. Henry smiled warmly, looking genuinely happy. Charles. Yeah. When I was an intern, Dr. Simmons once told me, a doctor must learn to see through to what a patient is really feeling, to see what they're really feeling. Yeah, and you were the one who actually practiced that. You saw what I was really thinking, not to pick it apart, but to understand it. I looked at Henry and said, idiot, then flicked his forehead with my finger, and we both burst out laughing. A few months after that incident, Henry showed up at my place. He looked visibly excited. Charles. Charles, Charles, Charles. All right, stop saying it over and over. My name's about to lose all meaning. It's huge. Okay. Calm down. Take a deep breath. I handed Henry a glass of water, trying to calm him down, and gestured for him to take a seat. As soon as he sat down, he gulped the water down in one go. So, what is it? Dr. Simmons has decided to bring in a new treatment from the U.S. There's a chance your leg could be healed with it through surgery. What? He'll be the one performing the surgery, of course. But he said I can be in the operating room with him. Charles, your leg might finally be fixed. Henry grabbed my shoulders, practically shaking with excitement. Fixed? My leg, you mean I might be able to walk without support? I looked at him in disbelief, and he nodded firmly. Afterward, the three of us, Henry, Dr. Simmons, and I sat down to discuss the operation in detail. Since it was the first time they would perform this kind of procedure, they were thorough in their explanation. After understanding the risks, I agreed to the surgery. Post-op, I pushed through the intense rehab, and after a few months, I was finally able to walk without any support. Of course, my leg muscles had deteriorated after nearly 20 years of limited use, but the doctors said I'd regained strength over time. Just being able to walk unaided again was more than enough for me. How's your leg feeling, Charles? Walking without help is amazing, but my next goal is to play soccer with you again. Got it. I haven't touched a ball in a while either. I'll need to get back in shape. I'll keep at the rehab. I gave my recovering leg a light pat. Soccer is a sport you can play your whole life, even into your 60s or 70s. That's part of its charm. Henry and I aren't looking to play seriously again, but we're both committed to continuing it as a lifelong sport. You two really are such close brothers. Seriously, even though we're newlyweds, it's always Charles this, Charles that. I'm getting jealous. Me too. He cried his eyes out at your wedding, you know? I saw it from the head table. I was honestly envious he's really loved. Our wives laughed softly together, and they looked absolutely adorable. Henry seemed to feel the same way, smiling with a hint of embarrassment. Our bright future is just beginning. And from here on, I know we'll all continue walking forward together.